Ay, oops, sorry. Pwede lapit lang natin ng konti. Sorry. Sorry about that. Kaya pa rin naman, di ba? Diretso na. Oo. Kaya na. Ayan, okay na. Okay. Para mas marinig tayo. Okay, let's go. Welcome back everyone dito sa latest episode ng Deep Dive, our special FY series. Kasama natin ulit isa sa ating mga legal luminaries, Justice Carpio. Thank you so much for making time. Marami ata tayong audience from all rarefied corners of the universe. So kung sana lang may makikinig sa atin dyan ulit mamaya or ngayon, makinig kayo. Marami tayong pag-usapan, Justice. Before we go to the Supreme Court again, right? Your favorite institution, your former institution, an institution at the heart of your life, vocation and advocacy. Shall we go to the debate among the legal luminaries in the Senate? Because I had the pleasure of watching Marcoleta, watching Alan Peter Cayetano, Cheese Escudero, our legal luminaries there, having very interesting debates. May mga blind items sila. I think Cheese was throwing blind item kay Justice Ascuna, saying, kayo nga, nung nasa Supreme Court kayo, ginaganyan nyo kami sa Congress. Tapos, sa'yo yata yung blind items sa'yo, Justice, is ayaw nyo lang kay Sara Duterte, this is really selective. And then ako naman, sinabi, hindi daw ako political analyst. Hindi naman talaga ako political analyst. I'm an intellectual in a very French sense of the word. So, lahat tayo na blind item, Justice Carpio. So before we make something contemptuous na baka ma-persona non grata sa Senate, what is your read of what happened in the Senate, Justice, in terms of the back and forth debate and efforts by non-lawyers like Tito Soto, by Lacson, by Risa to hold the fort?
Well, the original motion of Marcoleta and this group was to dismiss the impeachment complaint. And the consequence of that is the motion for reconsideration pending in the Supreme Court will become moot. Yeah. So the Supreme Court will also dismiss it, and that's the end of it. Right. I think cooler heads prevailed, and they said, let's do a middle ground, let's just archive it. If you archive it, you don't dismiss it, and the Supreme Court cannot use this as an argument that the case is moot. Yeah. Because if it's archived and the Supreme Court reverses itself, then the case can be revived. And you don't even have to ask the Senate to approve the revival because it's automatic. Because the Constitution says the articles, once at least a third of the members of the House sign the resolution, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. Now, that was stopped because the issue was whether the articles of impeachment are constitutional or not. So it went to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court says it's constitutional, it reverses itself, then trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. There is no more voting. They are under obligation to proceed.
So yung sinasabi ni, was it Sherwin Gatchalian?
Yes,
you made 5 or 6 to revive it?
Yeah, where they're saying that you need a majority to revive it, they will put it to a motion. No, because you go back to that provision. Once the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment. If it's constitutional, then trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. That kicks in.
Ay na naman tayo sa forthwith, Justice. Medyo traumatized pa kami. What we realize with forthwith is, mabilis sila mag-forthwith pag gusto nila i-dismiss or archive. Pero pag gusto nila i-start, parang iba yung forthwith na nangyari, di ba, Justice?
Yeah, well, I think slowly we're trying to remove all the ambiguities. So it's a process. As long as we keep on following the legal process, it's okay.
They kept on going in circles over this, which tells you about yung napakababa yung kalidad ng debate dyan sa upper house. Yung idea na immediately executory, pero hindi siya final. Kasi they kept on saying, yung DDS block and yung mga immediately executory, sabi ng Supreme Court, but it is not final, right? Because they're already pending motion for reconsideration. There have been already interventions made. The third one already is coming in. The status quo ex ante. So can you explain, Justice, what is this immediately executory but not final debate that was happening?
Well, for the case to be totally closed, it has to be executory and final.
And final.
The decision must be executory and final. But the court at times will say it's executory but period. So, in other words, you can still ask for a motion for recon because it's not yet final.
Right.
And this is that case. In other words, the Senate can archive it if they want, or they can just postpone their sessions and wait for the resolution of finality. In other words, they're not required to conduct any trial anymore.
Right.
But with the caution that there's still an MR, that it could be reversed still, there's a possibility of reversal. So they should not dismiss it. That's really the meaning of
That's
that.
the meaning of it. Now, speaking of that, it became also another interesting conversation na kampante na hindi magre-reverse ang Supreme Court ng sarili niyang decision. We'll talk about the Supreme Court decision itself and what our expectations shortly after this part. But sabi ni Marcoleta, hypothetical masyado yung question na yan for us to basically not to dismiss this thing kasi executory na eh. But Tito Soto correctly said na, well, hypothetically, what we'll do if yun naman okay din ginawa na nag-aasaran yung dalawa eh. But we do have precedents, multiple precedents of the Supreme Court reversing itself, including, ito ba yung tinatawag na the Talong case?
Yes,
Yung
the BP.
ISAA versus
Yes.
Greenpeace International.
Yes.
Harry Roque apparently was involved in that, on the
Yeah.
side of the Talong or against the Talong, right? But Justice Carpio, what happened with that Talong case? Can you explain that? Kasi unanimous reversal, di ba?
Yes,
Parang ganun,
it
no?
was about genetically engineered plants. BT
Lumalaki na
talong.
talong.
Yeah, because in the US, a lot of their agricultural products are genetically engineered.
Modified, yeah.
And they were on trial here. They were planting on
Right.
trial here. And so a case was brought, and the NBank said, now because of the precautionary principle, in other words, in situations like this, you must err on the side of caution. So
Because of the health hazard.
yeah, health
potentially.
hazard, and you don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
It could create some diseases or whatever.
Right.
So they said it's not yet ripe for decision because it's still you still have to find out what are the effects. So it was stopped. The trial and commercialization, the importation was stopped, but on motion for recon, it was totally reversed.
Because
Unanimous.
facts were presented by
Yes.
scientists and
Yeah.
experts.
Yeah, we sent it. I was still there. We sent it to the
You were still there, 2015, yes.
Yeah, it was sent to the Court of Appeals for the Court of Appeals to receive evidence, and it was sent back to us, and the entire court changed its mind.
Interesting. Since you were there, Justice, okay, I'll be a bit careful about how I put it. Psychologically, how difficult it is for you justices to reverse yourself en banc? Kasi
Well-
some would say baka ma-pride yung iba, baka sabihin nila this is
Well-
gonna undermine the credibility of your institution.
You have to base it on the facts. That's why
Right.
we are not a trier of facts in the Supreme Court. I mean, the Supreme Court is not
Your
trier of facts. So
interpretation, yeah.
the Supreme Court at that time referred it to the Court of Appeals to receive the evidence, and the evidence came back to us, and the entire NBank was convinced that there was no danger.
In enlarged talongs.
Yeah, in testing it, in even commercializing it. So the decision was reversed completely, unanimously. So it depended on the facts.
Right.
And that's the same thing here,
Yeah.
because of the glaring errors of fact. No? So that's why it's not impossible for the court to reverse itself.
Right. So this was very important because it looks like some people were not aware that there are precedents like this. But indeed, there's a precedent of en banc reversal, right? Because new facts were presented, which makes it very almost symmetrical with the situation we're facing right now. Although talong yung usapan dyan ngayon, parang ang usapan ngayon is Oishi and yung mga Miggy Mango. We'll go again to the Supreme Court very shortly, but I want to go to another point raised in the Senate, which I felt is very important, Justice. This idea that, well, there was openly an accusation against Justice Ascuna na, kayo nga, parang when you were in the Supreme Court, this and that you were essentially trying to impose your will on the lower house, which Justice Ascuna pushed back very strongly, including on my own show, View from Manila, that will come out tonight. And then of course, the implication is with you and the rest. Hindi kayo napangalanan, mahilig mag-blind item yung iba dyan is, baka yun nilang kay Sara Duterte. So idaan na lang natin. So parang basic ang point nila is, i-refile nyo na lang next year kung talagang hater lang talaga kayo, or talawin niyo si Sara sa 2028. How problematic and I would say perilous is that line of thinking? Na this is just about elections and bias lang kayo and you just don't like Sara and that's why you're doing
Well,
this.
this is about accountability. I mean, the charges against Sara are serious. We've seen that in the Quadcom hearings and even in the Senate hearings. So that has to be addressed because we're talking of accountability of very important public officials who are subject to impeachment. But if we go factually about our bias against Sara, we filed a case against Martin Romualdez in his campaign for charter change.
Right.
I mean, we opposed that. We did not file a case. We opposed that publicly. I went around the country opposing that. And then when they did not give any funding to PhilHealth in the General Appropriations Act of 2024,
Exactly.
we went to the Supreme Court, and it's still there, and I hope it will be decided soon. And then on the 2025 budget, we went to the Supreme Court again, questioning it.
Exactly.
They did not give priority to education. They inserted so many pork barrel funds in the DPWH. I mean, we don't favor anyone. We just defend the Constitution because we are retired justices and we just want to defend the Constitution because that's our fundamental law. Whoever transgresses it, we don't care who that person is. We will bring it to the Supreme. In fact, we have also a case against Sara on the confidential fund before the Supreme Court, and that's why we are interested in this case because this case involves confidential funds.
Exactly.
That's the reason why we, in our petition, we said to the court, we are here because, if you remember, we came here to question the constitutionality of the confidential funds, and this is an example of why you should act on our petition now because confidential funds are a special kind of funds where there has to be a law. The Constitution says the people have a right to information on matters of on all matters of public concern.
Right.
And the most important public concern is how their taxpayers' money is spent.
Exactly.
And the Constitution says everything is subject to the right of the people to public information unless there is a law providing for reasonable limitations. And I said, there is no law because Congress never enacted a law providing for reasonable limitations when it comes to confidential funds. So confidential funds must be scrutinized in the same way as all other funds. But VP Sara said, but my father issued this executive order saying that confidential funds are exempt. But that's not the law. The Constitution says there must be a law and an executive order is not. That's pending now. And that's why we intervene because this is directly related to our petition. So we are doing this regardless of who is the personality.
And just to be clear, I mean, again, the argument I hear off the record from relevant folks is, lahat naman yan corrupt bakit naman si Sara lang fina-focus nyo, million lang, billion lang. And I always say, well, first of all, we don't know what happened during Farmali and Digong's time. We can talk about billions there, if ever, potentially. Number two, assuming everyone is corrupt in a room, right? Because this is what the problem that when Xi Jinping started his purge was, where do you start? You start with the most brazen and the most in your face, right? And I think it's hard to find more allegedly brazen, malversation of funds or abuse of power than what we saw with all of this Miggy Mango and all of these chips and all of this stuff that we saw. So I just find that argument very dangerous because there are people, good-hearted people, including progressives, who are saying let's just distance ourselves from this. Away lang yan ng mga Dutertes and Marcoses. This is just a proxy war. What do you have to say about that, Justice? That
Well-
this is just a proxy war, that we are the useful idiots, basically, trying to give this kind of legal and civil society legitimacy.
Well, first of all, this is that's why I brought out the confidential funds, because
Right.
the confidential fund of the mayor of Davao City is now $500 million a year almost, and that's being liquidated the same way that the 125 million confidential fund of VP Sara is being liquidated, and that's why other cities are copying Davao. You have Makati now with a
Yeah,
200 million
proceedings.
confidential fund for the mayor. You have Quezon City with about 80 million. So other cities are copying. So that's why we went to the Supreme Court, that asked the Supreme Court to declare all confidential funds unconstitutional. So if you say it's 125 million now, but you have to look at the bigger picture. There are confidential funds in Davao. It's $500 million, almost
Yeah, we're talking about-
466
yes, exactly.
billion a million, almost $500 million a year, and it's spreading to other cities. So it's very important
Yeah.
that this has to be examined. No? So you cannot take this in isolation that it's only 125. In fact, it's more, because they are also questioning the confidential fund. I think it's totaling about 625 million for the entire DepEd.
Yeah.
But this is just an example, but the universe is bigger than this. You have Davao with almost $500 million a
Yeah.
year.
It's the tip of the iceberg. That's what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying. This
yeah.
is just tip of the iceberg. There's nothing selective here. We're going. I mean, we had 9 episodes on just the PhilHealth issue together.
Yeah.
Bashing the administration, bashing the Department
Yeah.
of Finance. So I find it completely ridiculous. This even by well-meaning people to say, "Oh, you're just allowing yourself to be dragged into a kind of a proxy war." This is a very dangerous mindset people are looking at. Ito, caught red-handed na nga na something fishy is going
Yeah.
on. You should, but if there, ito na lang. Why is the Sara legal team nag-Thanksgiving night sila the other night? I'm not sure sila yung nag-abogado dito. And why are they so happy? Wala nga trial nangyari. Should lawyers be happy that they escape a trial? Is that how it works, Justice, in your profession?
Well, they got a reprieve. But we're talking here of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So you cannot say it's small time. I mean,
It is not.
it's
yeah.
not, because the ramifications are tremendous here.
Tremendous, yeah. Speaking of that, last point on the Senate, I don't want to waste too much time on this Senate, on this really lower house. Before I go to the substance of our discussion, this argument by Cayetano na talunin nyo na lang si Sara sa 2028 elections. How dangerous is that kind of mindset na idaan mo sa
Yeah.
popularity contest,
Yeah.
questions of accountability?
Well, he's saying that if he wins the next election, you don't have a right to question all his spending. That's the meaning of that.
Exactly.
But we practically abandoned that. There was this condonation doctrine, administrative law, where if you were charged administratively and you ran for re-election and the people voted you again into office, you are deemed to have been condoned for your previous administrative offenses. And that was reversed by the Supreme Court.
right,
I was
right,
there. We
right.
reversed that. That's an old doctrine. They call it the Aguinaldo doctrine. It was reversed. And it's precisely this.
Exactly.
Just because you were elected doesn't mean that you can get away with it.
That popularity doesn't cancel accountability.
Yeah, it doesn't. Because the Constitution says every public official shall be accountable
All-
to the people at all times.
All time, exactly. Not just like every election cycle, let's hold them accountable. That's a very dangerous mindset, which to me feels like ang mga hindi impartial ay yung mga ibang senador who seem to want to, who are worried for Sara na parang, huwag nyo na anuin ngayon, doon na lang tayo sa election, di ba? Kasi parang feeling siguro they have sense that they have better chances.
Yeah, but precisely why the Supreme Court abandoned the condonation
Right.
doctrine, because it's very dangerous.
It's very dangerous. Exactly. It's very dangerous.
I mean, you're saying it's okay for you to commit plunder as if you are elected again, that's plunder is wiped out.
I will be a little bit even more cheeky about it. I hope hindi naman that. Justice, how many seemingly corrupt people kept on getting re-elected over. Like, let's just be honest. Our elections are not a very good indicator of accountability. Even, let's say legally, we have a doctrine na idaan na lang natin sa election. Let's be honest. Like, what kind of people keep on getting re-elected, right?
Well, that is just an incentive for people to steal more because they
Oo.
can give money to buy votes.
To buy votes and win again. And
Win again.
there you go. Kaya I really found that argument like, I was just aghast. Like, what kind of argument? Justice, I know you're very respectful to everyone, kaya hindi ka tulad ko, hindi ka nag-contempt, but is this the worst Senate you have seen? Like, if this is the quality of debate, like, like ako na migraine ako, I went to the canteen, nagkakape na lang ako, like, is this really, like, this is really incredible, right? What we're seeing in the Senate right now, the level of debates we're seeing. How did you feel about the debate in general?
Well, you just have to look for some silver lining.
Medyo, napapagod na ako. Saan yung silver lights? But in fairness, no? I mean, Tito Soto,
Yeah.
Lacson, I mean, not bad, no?
I was not too downhearted because it was archived, it was not
Oh, naman,
dismissed.
in fairness.
Because that means there's a fighting chance.
There's a fighting chance pa rin. Kasi it could have been worse, di ba? So dismissal talagang gusto nila, totally.
Yeah.
Pero yun nga, isn't it funny na parang, wait, why are you already talking about this? Hindi nga tayo nag-convene as a trial, di ba? Hindi nga nag-sworn in
Yeah.
yung mga yan. And then they're already like, ang weird nung sequencing eh. It was a mess. Right? Like, you cannot dismiss a trial if you're not inside the trial to begin with. And these people are not even sworn in.
There was someone saying that how can the Senate dismiss it when it belongs, the jurisdiction is with the impeachment court?
Yeah. And then, di ba, they returned it pa to the Congress, di ba? So, ang gulo. This is really a... So, siguro, Jesus Cordero, siguro ping-pong ang ano niya. Now, let's go to the Supreme Court case because this is really, really important, Justice. Again, with all due respect, my legal team will send the response very soon, Justice. Just to be clear. Hindi ko na alam kay Armageddon. Gadon. Iba na yung good luck sa kanya mag-explain. But kami, legit. Now, Justice, let me ask this question that I also asked Justice Ascuna. And he, as one of the framers, really felt invested in it. What makes the Supreme Court and the judicial branch different is that it's not majoritarian, meaning it's not voted into office. It's not an elected institution. It is expected to be above the fray. And that's precisely where our understanding as scholars of democracies, where its authoritative legitimacy comes from. How important it is for the Supreme Court to be seen and to remain above the fray and not to be seen as overreaching its mandate.
Well, very important because the influence of the court depends on its credibility.
Right.
If it is not credible to the people, then nobody will follow it. So it's very important that it must maintain its credibility at all times. That's it. You have the executive, the president commands the military. You have the Congress, it controls the budget, power of the purse. The Supreme Court decides on the basis of its reasoning, and its reasoning must be convincing. It must take the moral high ground because it's the referee between the executive and the legislative. So it has to be very careful when it decides. It must come out with a decision that's really compelling, very persuasive. So if its decision is based on facts that are clearly wrong, then we have a problem. Because that creates a dissonance. The people will say, the facts are like this, but you concluded it this way. And that's when the credibility of the court will come into question and its influence will diminish.
That's why we went back to the 2015 case in the case of Talong, right? The Greenpeace one, because there the court had no problem reversing itself when the clear scientific facts came out. Now, since last time we talked, ABS-CBN came out and clarified that some of the facts that were cited in the decision were actually contrary to what actually happened. So we're seeing from multiple sides, people are saying, either there's no proper understanding of how the calendar works in the Congress. If you look at the MR of the House of Representatives, they're also very clear about it. But now even a discipline, the news sites that have been cited as a basis for this decision are coming out and also questioning the factual referencing. Is this unprecedented, Justice? And what is the off-ramp here? I mean, is there a way for the court to just say, okay, in light of these new clarified facts, we can do X, Y, Z? Is
Well,
that something that will still retain their integrity and sense of themselves?
Well, I cannot remember of a similar case where the court said that because of this, these are the facts, and because of these facts, that act is unconstitutional. But it turns out that the facts were otherwise. I mean, and it's clear. I mean, it's clear to the entire nation. This is, I think, the first case because it's so.
Clerical error? Is that how can like?
Well,
how can we look at that?
It's not a clerical error because if you read the case, there is a portion there where, in stating the sequence of events, the court said that even the petitioners, Attorney Torion and VP Sara, admitted that there was a plenary vote. But then, in another subsequent provision, paragraph, the court said that the plenary did not vote on the fourth complaint. So there is an internal conflict, contradiction within the decision itself. So, well, I just hope that they will accept that because, of course, it's in the journal. And the journal is, we have several, it's countless jurisprudence which says that the court is bound by the journals. We take judicial notice of that.
Right.
You don't even have to introduce in evidence the journal because the court will take judicial notice, just like the law. You don't have to introduce evidence that this is the law. They should know. They should know the law. So, the actual official acts of the House and the Senate is deemed to be judicial notice to the Supreme Court. And so I think there's a fundamental error in the
factual deficiency
in the statement of facts, and therefore the conclusion would be wrong also. So I just hope that the court will take this into consideration because it's so fundamental to preserve the credibility of the court and the influence of the court.
But there's a second part to it, right? This critique na there's a judicial overreach happening here, that new rules are being retroactively applied. Can we talk about that? Because the other argument that the Cayetano types are raising is, mag-file ulit kayo next year February, ba't masyado kayo nag-rush? Relax lang kayo dyan. But the argument here is that the rules have been changed unilaterally. That's the accusation now.
There's actually, we have a doctrine in this country, the court has used it several times, the doctrine of operative fact. And in the US, that is called the doctrine of prospective overturning. It means that if a government agency or a public official did an act completely in accordance with the Constitution and decisions of the Supreme Court, and later on the Supreme Court overturns those decisions, the new doctrines cannot be made retroactive to make his act illegal. Because at the time he made that act, he was completely in compliance with the existing law.
Right.
In fairness, it should not be struck down. In other words, the new doctrine will be made prospective. And this is precisely the case when Congress, when the House adopted the fourth complaint, it was completely in accordance with the Constitution. And the decisions of the Supreme Court in Francisco and in Gutierrez, but now the Supreme Court reversed Francisco and Gutierrez and say, we are retroacting this to
Didn't Francisco himself also like commentary si Francisco
yeah, yeah,
bigla na
yeah,
like
yeah.
is
So it cannot be made retroactive out of
Right.
fairness, no?
Right.
Fairness to, because it was totally impossible to comply with those rules which were not even enacted at the time. I mean, how can you comply with it? These are,
time travel. Baka may may Asimov
well, we have
foundation.
not yet developed a machine for time travel. So that's
That's the
the
implication,
unfairness of
yeah.
it. So that's why it should be made prospective.
But even if it's supposed to be made prospective, isn't there an argument here that masyadong hinikpitan yung
Yes,
paraan
yeah.
parang therefore it will have serious accountability implications. We don't have a very good record of holding top officials
Yes.
accountable. This will make it even harder. What about that argument?
Yes, in fact, we included that also because the new rules say that whether it is under the first mode of impeachment or the second mode, there must be a hearing at the plenary level. But in the first mode, the plenary must forward to the Committee on Justice within 3 session days. You
Right.
cannot have a hearing within 3 session days because you have to draft the articles of
Exactly,
impeachment,
yeah.
send it to the impeach officer to comment, and he has to present evidence. It's physically impossible to comply. And the law
Unless
that,
you use ChatGPT or baka pwede kaya ng 90 pages
Yeah.
yun. Wow, this is we are in an interesting situation. So just a quick question before we go to the other international court, other court, which is the ICC. Before we close this really interesting episode, Justice, um, guardrails. So when we drafted the 1997 Constitution, our primary concern was a Marcosian dictatorship coming back again, right? Executive overreach. That was our concern, right? So basically, the idea is that you empower other institutions, including the legislature, including Supreme. Now, some are saying maybe the guardrails should apply to all branches of the state to ensure any kind of overreach is avoided. Because weirdly, the current president, who's also named Ferdinand Marcos, if there's one thing he's accused of, is not dictatorship, it's lack of anger and character, right? Parang masyadong mabait. I keep on hearing, like, which is the weirdest thing that ng mga Filipinos. So, it looks like we now have a Ferdinand Marcos again in office, but this Ferdinand Marcos seems to be the opposite of the dad, at least in terms of demeanor and posturing. So some are saying maybe we need guardrails for other branches of the state to not abuse their power.
well, if you discuss the, because of what happened in martial law, the new constitution, the framers said we have to put up guardrails, and basically they put it in the martial law powers. The president can still declare martial law, but within 24 hours, the Congress can revoke it if it wants, automatically without call, and it's good only for 60 days. And after 60 days, it has to be reauthorized by the Congress. So, and there's another avenue. Anybody can go to the Supreme Court to question it, and the Supreme Court can strike it down.
Right.
So there are so many guardrails that practically, the way I look at it, it's really almost ineffective already. Now, because of that experience in martial law, the framers gave the Supreme Court this extraordinary power. We call it extraordinary certiorari power to declare, to strike down any grave abuse of discretion by the legislature, by House, the Senate, or even the executive department or any agency of government. It's very extraordinary because for grave abuse of discretion, the acts of anyone in government can be declared unconstitutional because the framers gave this power to the Supreme Court
Right.
as a guardian of our democracy. Now, if the Supreme Court will overreach, if there's judicial overreach, I'm worried that in the next framing of our Constitution, when we have a constitutional convention, they will remember this overreach and start to chip on this extraordinary certiorari power of the Supreme Court.
So you
I mean,
backlash, basically
Yeah,
backlash.
the pendulum will swing the other
Right.
way. So So that's why I'm saying this has to be exercised judiciously, wisely by the court, because what the court is doing now is practically castrating the impeachment powers. It's so strict now that even Justice Ascuna, even CJ Panganiban is saying that it's almost impossible now to file an impeachment case under these rules. So then the pendulum will swing the other way, and the framers of the next constitution will remember this, because you have to find a middle ground here. So I just hope that we look forward and see
And the
the
big
consequence.
picture,
Yeah,
the
the entire
forest.
picture.
Look at the forest.
Yeah, because we are not deciding on because this will be a precedent, and the framers may not like it because that's overreach, just like what former President Marcos Sr. did,
Right.
and they really chopped down his martial law powers, and that could happen to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there could be a backlash. Just a note, I mean, this is quite sensitive, but I feel like we have to say this. I've personally, on multiple occasions and consistently said that I don't see there's a point in personally attacking the justices here, right? Even though, ironically, I'm being accused of being contemptuous, because, especially with Justice Leonen, because I have a lot of respect for him. I see him as very progressive. I've attended conferences where he was there. I've had the chance to exchange some views with him and look forward to exchanging more views with him over time. I just feel it's not healthy attacking him the way people are doing. What do you think should be the approach of progressive and civil society groups? What is the constructive way forward that we can find an off-ramp here?
Well, the constructive way really is to stick to the facts and the law,
Right.
to explain this based on the facts and the law. I mean, the facts are otherwise, and present it, and what are the consequences? Like if you retroact it, I'm not attacking anyone there. I'm just saying if you.
No, but I'm saying about other friends of ours
Yeah.
who are really almost medyo nasty na. I mean,
Well,
they're attacking personally. I don't think that's
well,
healthy.
any ad hominem will not really help. I mean, we have to discuss this rationally based on the facts and the law, and without any, interjecting any personal element here.
And malicious intent and all of that. And that's why I also clarified, appointment patterns also do not necessarily make a basis for any inference, as our DDS friends seem to have maliciously missed that part of my explanations. Let's talk about another court, International Criminal Court. Buti nga walang forthwith. Buti nga walang... at least this court seems to be quite efficient. How bad is the situation of Duterte's? Because they tried to disqualify the judges, it didn't work. They tried to have an interim release, mukhang it didn't work. Now, they're trying to disqualify the prosecutor, Karim Khan. And in fact, there are even reports that Mr. Kaufman may have been involved in some parallel other cases. This is the Netanyahu case, some reports, etc. Like, what is the situation there? Because everyone is looking forward. In a month, we're gonna have the next hearing, big hearing, and this one will be in a real court, in a solid court, international criminal court. What is your read of the situation? How bad? What is what is the going state of affairs? I'm sorry to say this, Justice. I'm really sorry because you're from Davao too, right? So the other day na-cancel si Vice Ganda, di ba? For the joke she made about jet ski and all. I don't know if you've seen the concert. And ang sama talaga ng tao. So there are people pushing for her to be persona non grata in Davao. Ako naman sa Panobo lang. So pwede pa ako pumasok sa Davao. Pero hindi sa City Hall. So biglang may nag-comment, ayan na, dalawang hindi persona non grata, dalawang hindi makabalik sa Davao. Vice Ganda and Digong. Ang sama talaga ng tao. Kaya quits lang daw. Sama talaga ng tao. Let's talk about Digong's case. Where do you see this court case going so far? I mean, all of this acrobatic system is trying to pull off right now.
Well, they're trying to, as you said, well, you're correct. They tried to question the jurisdiction. It's still pending. They tried to oust 2 judges. Well, they failed there.
Yes.
And now they're trying to oust the prosecutor. But
is this a legal strategy? Does this make sense?
And I think there's an element, you correctly mentioned Netanyahu, because Kaufman was a former prosecutor in Israel,
Yeah.
and I think uh, he's uh, he's hitting two birds with one stone.
Oh, right.
Yeah, if he attacks,
He's gonna help someone else too
yeah,
along the
yeah,
way.
yeah. If he attacks Khan, he also,
Who issued the warrant of arrest
yeah,
for
yeah,
Netanyahu?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So hitting two birds with one stone. So it's getting to be a little bit
Tricky.
tricky now. But I think even if they remove Khan, there are very good prosecutors there.
Exactly.
It will not really matter.
And I think Karim Khan is on suspended, ano siya, di ba?
Yeah, he's
Pending
now,
some-
yeah, suspended.
Although
now.
some people have conspiracy theories about that. But anyway, I don't want to get into, I'll leave that to mga Joe Rogans of this world.
Yeah, I hope he gets exonerated, and I understand the he is in good grounds.
He is in good grounds. Speaking of he's in good grounds, pinapauwi na si Harry Roque ni Digong. What's going on there? Bakit parang ba't yung mga Duterte ayaw na kay Harry Roque? Justice Carpio, we were talking about Talong kanina, the Talong case and the Greenpeace case that you oversaw. What is the life lesson here for Harry Roque? Because no one wants him. What's going on there? Is Harry Roque's presence prejudicial to Duterte's well-being, legal well-being? Is that
Well,
what's-
that seems to be the
interpretation of his legal team?
the assessment of Kaufman, because he was
Oh, my God.
petrified when Harry Roque said, "Let's sue the Netherlands, the government of Netherlands for allowing this kidnapping to happen in their soil."
Yeah, medyo ano, I think he's going a bit off kilter. Medyo nag-worry pahinga ka muna. Sabi ko, itong pugante to. I don't know if it is true. I saw some reports saying Harry's parang ina-attack pa niya yung mga surveys. Yung mga surveys showing that 80% of Filipinos wanted trial to happen. Like, this guy has gone off. What is the arc of Harry since that Talong case, Justice? Since that Greenpeace Talong case? Wasn't he supposed to be a human rights activist, a man of the people? What's going on?
Well, he was a human rights activist, and remember when Duterte first ran, at the start of the campaign, he said, "Do not vote for Duterte because he's a serial killer, serial murderer."
It's there online, hindi may erase yan.
Yeah.
Which could be cited by the prosecution team,
That's
right?
why I think Kaufman doesn't want him there, because he will be called as a witness.
I know. We called, like, may we call the defense teams like to come over here and to explain. Oh my goodness. Last point, Justice. Thank you so much. It was really a tour de France. Ombudsman. How important is the ombudsman position right now? Because this is another big thing. We saw it looks like a fake news that Remulla was being sidelined because of his involvement in the ICC case. My sense is, I hope that's not true, because that parang creates a stigma na if you're involved in the Duterte, like you're gonna be automatic.
Yeah.
Like what the heck is going on there? And how important is we get the right ombudsman?
Well, it's very important, because the ombudsman really is our assurance that
Right.
graft and corruption will be checked and eliminated. No?
Right.
And we've that's the structure of our government, for big cases involving corruption. It can be handled by the ombudsman, and we have tons of that now. You have the flood control projects and everything, so you have confidential funds. We really need a very strong, very efficient ombudsman, and I think that's why it's important to get the right person. In the case of Secretary Remulla, the case against him, I understand, is because he was one of the government officials who sent former President Duterte to The Hague. But it was brought to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court didn't decide anything against them. So I think he should be able to clear himself with that.
Right. And ano yung mga katangian na dapat meron tayo sa isang ombudsman, Justice, para... I mean, we had already Conchita Carpio,
Yeah.
your distant cousin, as a good model, I would say.
Yes. First of all, the ombudsman must, of course, have the highest integrity.
Right.
Second, the ombudsman must be fearless to go after the big time corrupt officials,
Right.
and must be very devoted to his work.
Right. Or her work, for that
Yeah.
matter, Is it important, given enough resources by the administration? Because this is going to be difficult investigative job and lots of slugfest.
Well, I think it has been given enough resources so far by the by Congress, and I think they have upgraded the salary scale also of the
To insulate
the
from
lawyers there,
temptations,
and the, they get the best salary scales now. So I think we should expect more from the ombudsman.
And to end this fantastic episode, really thankful for Justice Carpio. Let's circle back to the point we raised last December with Sir Ronald. Apparently si Sir Ronald, I don't know kung anong cellphone kaya, he got confused pala about the dates again, si Sir Ronald. But we hopefully will have it on our next episode, Quadcom. May Quadcom din kami dito with Mark and Attorney Jesus Falsis. The fear about extra-constitutional temptation, right? The fear about crackpots, I'll just put it that way, right? Abusing this. Kasi I think anger is building up, right? I mean, if we don't have an off-ramp from the current situation, if everyone's gonna dig in, right? Everyone's gonna insist on basically polarized interpretation of not only the law, but what our democracy should about. Don't you see we're moving towards a very seriously warring direction, Justice?
Yes, I'm very concerned about that because, first of all, times are bad. The hunger rate has gone up. People are having hard time making ends meet, and you have now a group of people who get all of this information about corruption, flood control projects, and it has agitated them, and they're pushing for a revolutionary government that. Congress is inutil, the judiciary is inutil, the executive is inutil, and of course the budget is just full of pork barrel. So I think we have to be careful about actions now that aggravate this situation. So we have to make people, we have to assure people that the rule of law is what is best for them, that they do not have to go outside the rule of law.
Not get desperate.
Yes. So, because I've heard a lot of people saying that, we're hopeless. But no, I think we still have a lot of room to play under the rule of law, and it's not yet time really to talk about extra legal means.
And I still maintain my confidence in our highest court to look at the MRs and make the right decision in that regard. Because we're looking at the forest, not the trees here, and the forest here is our constitutional democracy, and the highest document is still our constitution, right? Which is the manifestation of the sovereignty of the Filipino people. On that note, thank you very much, Justice Carpio,
Thank you,
for
Richard.
that was very good, systematic. No, I think we covered all the grounds. Just in case if people have more questions among others. Oh, by the way, just huling habol lang. Just in case if President BBM or someone is watching, what will you be advised? Where should the President stand on this issue? Because President BBM the other day said, well, last time I checked, hindi na-acquit si Sara. It had nothing to do with the merits of the case. What should be the position of the President, and how should the President in his own way, after all, he's still the Commander-in-Chief, maintain trust and confidence in our republic despite all of this crisis? What should BBM do? What would be your advice to the President?
My advice to him is to choose a very competent ombudsman, because all of these cases facing Sara will be translated into cases to be filed later with the ombudsman.
And in terms of yung mga flood control issues, etc., he just had a press conference on that kanina. I was watching. What should he do to restore faith in terms of making sure yung mga kalokohan na kababalagan nangyari sa corruption, we're doing something about it?
Well, he has to start showing some results in the investigation.
Like interagency task force, they should be NTF, something like that.
Yes, I mean, I would like the ombudsman when he assumes office,
The
whoever
newest
he
one,
is.
That could be number
Yeah,
one.
that could be number
Yeah,
one also.
yeah. Very good point. Thank you so much, Justice
Okay,
Carpio, for
teacher.
that
Thank
fantastic
you.
conversation. Catch us again. Soon, we're gonna have Quadcom naman. Hindi ko alam kung makahabol si Sir Roland. Nakalimutan na naman niya yung kanyang appointment with us. But we're gonna have with us Senador Mark Gamboa and of course, Attorney Jess Falsis very shortly. Marami tayong pag-usapan. Again, thank you so much. Don't also forget to watch yung episode natin with Justice Ascuna later on sa View from Manila sa One News TV5. Marami tayong pag-usapan, including his perspective as one of the framers and as someone who actually had a eureka moment apparently with me about yung filing rule, diba? So check that out and talk to you soon. Maraming salamat. God bless. Off ko lang to. Thank you very much. Beautiful. 1 second lang. Justice, can we get a short video lang?